Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It's Friday morning, March 18th, 2022, and we get together with our distribution partners most weekdays at this time, talk about tips, strategies, techniques, success stories, but ultimately we're here to support each of you. So let's step back and review what it is that we do together. So we are what's called, we meaning you and I, we are what's called technical advisors. And that's an actual term that is recognized in the business lending industry. Technical advisors are the professionals that help entrepreneurs, small business owners, navigate the path to be able to access capital. What is it that you and I know that it takes to be able to access capital? It's not just a dream or a hope or a desire or even a need. It's based upon meeting the credibility standards to be approved, to meet the underwriting criteria. We know that there are three primary C's that come into play of becoming credible. Are there more than three C's? There are, but we're going to stick with the big three for today's conversation. Credit, cash flow, collateral. Now, traditional lenders, bank lenders, for example, are often going to look at all three of those C's. Let's break them down. Credit. Now, credit could be personal credit and or business credit, but regardless, credit is a reflection of have we paid our bills on time in the past? Have we done what we said that we would do? No one really knows the future, but the best predictor of the future is how we paid our bills in the past. So having established credit is one of the three C's. Do all sources of capital look at credit? Do all sources of capital look at all three C's? Absolutely not. But credit is certainly one of the three C's for, I think, a pretty good reason. The second of the three C's in no particular order would be cash flow. Technically, it's called capacity. And that means, do we have the ability to pay back the money that we wish to borrow? Well, if you and I were a lender instead of a technical advisor, which I know we're not, but that would kind of make sense, right? So maybe that person has paid their bills in the past, but can they afford to pay back what they're seeking to borrow now? Think about home mortgages. And that's a great example why to get a mortgage of a house, you have to show your income, because and there's ratios, because if what you're wanting to pay for your monthly mortgage exceeds your capacity, your ability to pay, you probably will go default on it. So we have credit, whether it be personal or business. We have capacity, often referred to as cash flow. Do we have enough money coming through to pay the debt back? And then thirdly, we have collateral, and that hits right close to home in what I'm sharing with you today. Collateral is often a missing piece, a missing ingredient of the loan packages of many of the clients that we work with. But the great news is that's one of the easiest to resolve. It can be resolved almost immediately, and you can monetize it. So we can solve problems, we can build the credibility of clients, and you can make a lot of money doing so. So when it comes down to collateral, typically the need for it is very apparent. So we're going to draw some analogies. So we're not talking about credit today, but we're just going to draw some analogies. So can we look at a client's business credit profile, their Dun & Bradstreet report, for example, and very quickly determine, have they added trade lines, paid on those trade lines? Does that business credit report of the client reflect credibility? Yeah, it just takes a moment to look at. Can we also look at a client's balance sheet just as quick and determine, are there adequate assets on that balance sheet to be able to pledge as collateral? Yes. We can quickly look at that. How much money do they want to borrow? How much collateral does it show in their balance sheet? If there's a shortfall, then that's where you and I probably would want to step in with this, the Collateral Support Program. It's real, it's credible, it's valid, and we can actually do a legal transfer of real assets, happens to be income producing assets, which we'll come back to the client's balance sheet. So we have been involved with this, we'll call it in this space, for quite some time. Historically, we were selling the Collateral Support Program to institutional buyers. And we shared with you that last year we sold to a big law firm in Austin, Texas, over $3 million. Currently, we're working on our largest deal ever. It's packaged as 17 million. It was 5 million a few days ago, and they asked for more, so we packaged more. So this isn't pretend, it's not fuzzy, it's not gray. Typically in this space, it's referred to as debt buying and debt selling. Usually that has historically occurred with defaulted mortgages, defaulted automobile loans, and defaulted credit card debts. It's a big industry, but the average person has never been able to tap into that. The average person is often looking for ways to create wealth, and they may chase after cryptocurrency or real estate, but debt buying and selling is actually one of the easiest ways, the most liquid ways to be able to grow one's income. So as you and I are technical advisors working with small businesses, as they come into the system and we go through the small business certification, which are the 4 modules to build their loan package, and they can access that through the full access to capital program with no upfront cost, or through the small business certification standalone step 1 of the 2-step funding. Regardless, when we get to module 3, week 3, we look at the financial statements of the client because it's relevant, their income statement and balance sheet, even if they're a brand new company. And that's where I get the most pushback, and you probably will too. People will be a bit financially illiterate in some cases, and they'll say, well, I'm a new company, I don't have a balance sheet. Well, then you have no chance of getting funding. We need to create a balance sheet. Is it hard to create a balance sheet? Absolutely not. Step 1, get QuickBooks. Now, we don't sell QuickBooks, and frankly, there's alternative to QuickBooks, but it's the most widely used, so we'll just use that. Get QuickBooks for your company. It's next to nothing, almost free online. Secondly, connect your business bank account to your QuickBooks. Otherwise, you have to manually enter all the transactions. And then third, click on reports. And there it is. There's the balance sheet. There's what I call the income statement. QuickBooks calls profit and loss. But there it is, right? It's super simple. And so if we want to go after business funding, we need to be able to produce business financial reports for our entity, our business, even if it's brand new. And so with that balance sheet, we can quickly discern, again, is there a mismatch between the amount of capital that the client's pursuing and the amount of collateral that they have. So the Collateral Support Program, where we really started it and was selling it to institutional buyers, meaning big 7-figure deals, or now maybe an 8-figure deal, it is also a very useful tool that you and I, as technical advisors, can offer our clients that have a light balance sheet. In other words, an inconsistency between the amount of money they're wishing to borrow and the collateral they have. So on our website on Business Paralegal, we can go to the home page, and then we can see there's the Collateral Support Program. So this provides a brief but accurate overview. There's also a video on accounts receivable financing, but we have the inquiry form. So if we have just people coming in off the street, this is how we go about it. However, if a client's going through the small business certification, again, it becomes much more natural, much more organic, right? We're looking at the different elements of their credibility. We see their balance sheet doesn't match their capital raise needs in terms of collateral, then we can introduce it. There are 2 ways for you to monetize this. And so we're going to go through those for you. One of which is if you wish to be a debt buyer, which means that you would buy the portfolio, which I'll describe more in a moment. If you wish to buy the portfolio of debt and then mark it up, that's the way that transactions happen, right? When Walmart sells you Jiffy peanut butter, they bought it from Jiffy or whatever the name of the manufacturer is, and then they mark it up and they sell it to the consumer. So being a middleman, quote unquote, and marking up products or services isn't somehow illegal or unethical. It's the way that many transactions occur. You're creating value by connecting the buyer and seller. So if you wanted to be a debt buyer, then you would buy a portfolio, which again, I'll describe in a moment. And you buy that at wholesale price, just like Walmart buys the Jiffy peanut butter. And then you sell to the client at retail, which frankly, you get to pick what your retail price is. And you make money off of the spread, off of the delta, off of the difference. Typically, that's $5,000 to $10,000 per portfolio. So while it's not get rich quick, there's no risk involved. You're flipping it and you're making profit while helping the client. So the resource site is here. Now, once a prospect fills out this form, we're trying to figure out, are they looking for the collateral support program for themselves, or do they want to be a distribution partner, which you and I would call debt buyer? And there's no cost to become a debt buyer. We're not selling some sort of package where you have to pay a fee to be a debt buyer. None of that nonsense. So then a package would go out to them, and that's what's on the right-hand side here. And we've covered on training before. First page is a cover sheet, but the second page, I think, does a pretty good job. I can make it a little bit smaller. Does a pretty good job of describing what is this collateral support program. And so you can talk to bankers, you can talk to SBA lenders, and many would concur that often inadequate collateral is the barrier, often the biggest barrier of clients getting approved. There's a lot of financial illiteracy out there, and many small business owners think it's credit that's keeping them from getting funded. But more often than not, it's not credit, it's collateral. But you and I have a resource for that can solve their problem, and you can monetize. So the way that we typically package, well, when we're doing an institutional sale, which is not what we're talking about here, those packages could be, and often are, multiple millions of dollars. They don't want to deal with small amounts. They hate that. But when working with individual clients, then we're breaking it down where a portfolio is normally a $100,000 portfolio. So those are real assets. They're not pretend. They're not fuzzy. No one's going to get in trouble. There's nothing inappropriate about it. We're literally moving $100,000 of assets to the client's balance sheet. And as referenced here, that can be moved over instantly, right? We can help them add that to their balance sheet. So now they have assets. Real assets, not pretend, not fuzzy, well, I hope they don't ask about it, real assets. With that being said, though, what's crucial is the movement of the assets from one party to the next must be properly documented. Just like if you were to sell me your car, you shouldn't just take my money, give me the keys to the car, and I drive off. That really hasn't legally transferred ownership. There needs to be a paper trail. And so that's part of what we do, and we're very good at that. We have the appropriate legal and complete documentation that moves ownership from the seller to the buyer. So if you wanted to make money as a debt buyer, you could offer the collateral support program out at large, or what's real easy is bring people in to the access to capital or two-step funding program, and most of them will need this. And so then you would buy a portfolio at wholesale price, and then you'd resell it at retail, and you would determine the retail. Wholesale, again, and it's all stated in here, wholesale is 10 cents on the dollar. Retails, whatever you would want to mark it up to. Most of you are marketing it up to 15 to 20 cents on the dollar. Now, when we sell the portfolio to institutional investors, they wire us all the money up front. But when we're working on smaller deals like this, helping clients, we only charge a 1-point deposit, which is all stated here. We can blow it up and there's no secrets. So there's just $1,000 down. So frankly, if you wanted to become a debt buyer and of course a debt seller, then I mean, it's next to nothing. You pay 1 point down. We can finance the rest. There's no minimum credit scores or verifiable income needed. And so then that allows you to become the owner of those assets. And so the assets that you own go onto your balance sheet. If you're trying to do your own capital raise, then maybe that mission accomplished. But in many cases, what you're going to do is you'll end up selling that at a markup, selling it at retail where you bought it at wholesale. Once someone buys the debt, there's several different ways to liquidate it because it's real. It's real assets. This is not pretend monopoly money. So one option is to collect off of it because it's money that's owed. And so that could be collected in-house or you can use a third-party debt collector. It can be litigated and there's attorneys that will litigate for contingency. So it's not like you'd have to pay the attorneys. And then also it can be resold as we've talked about. So I had several questions and a lot of interest in the whole debt buying, debt selling, collateral support. So wanted to revisit that and I want to open it up for questions. So just to put it in perspective, what we call the Collateral Support Program, this is on the website, this is the informational packet we send out when someone has completed the form. The roles or the titles would be debt buyer and debt seller, but the Collateral Support Program is the umbrella term, and what's actually being bought and sold are real assets. So who has questions, comments, concerns on how this fits into you making money, how this fits into helping clients improve their credibility? Because again, it dovetails back into the 3 C's. If you want to borrow money, the 3 C's are relevant. Credit, which could be personal and or business, capacity, which is often referred to as cash flow, and collateral. Do you have to have all 3 C's? Well, it depends. No, technically. There are different sources of capital, and different sources of capital have their own underwriting criteria. Some we can go after just with credit without even verification of income or collateral, and so forth. What questions do any of you have on this very important topic? Because of the 3 C's, what you and I can do as technical advisors is help people improve any of those 3 C's. That's what we do. That's what our programming is about, right? We do 3 things. We help improve financial literacy. We help build a lender compliant loan package. And thirdly, we help clients build the credibility to get funding. And we guarantee them a minimum of $100,000. But that's not some too good to be true promise. How do you get 100,000 or 500,000 or $1 million? You qualify for it. Well, how do you qualify for it? It comes down to some combination of the 3 C's. Most often when we get pushback and people say, well, that's not real, that's a scam, that's too good to be true, it's because they're financially illiterate. They think that, oh, we're trying to get people just to sign up and magically they're going to get millions of dollars. Well, that's ridiculous, right? That is too good to be true. And it's not what we offer. But instead, what you and I do is we build financial literacy, we build a lender compliant loan package, and then thirdly, we help them meet the credibility standards to get the funding. All right, so who has questions, comments, concerns on the Collateral Support Program? What it is, how it works, how you can make money from it, Any questions whatsoever? Because that is our topic today. All right, so Steve's asking the question again, just wanting a summary of how he can plug in. So great question, Steve. So one of two scenarios. You could just go out to the marketplace and pitch the collateral support program. Where would you pitch it if you wanted to go direct to market? Because I think it's similar to many purchases in the financial space. I don't think that there's many people, the end user, the consumer, sitting around thinking, today I think I should buy a collateral support program, because they don't know what they don't know. But it would be through key influencers that you could access those clients. So if you have access to loan brokers, people that are in merchant cash advances, professionals that set up merchant card accounts. I had a conversation with a gentleman yesterday. He's about ready to bring hundreds of clients on because he does merchant card processing. So he's very good. He's out talking, his name's Warren. He's out talking to small business owners all the time, trying to get their business to process their credit cards. Again, that's not what we do. That's what he does. Well, he's got this big book of business of people that are looking for collateral. So working with business to business professionals that either have a book of business or are out reaching out to small business owners makes a lot of sense. Anyone in the lending space would probably realize that the collateral support program is needed, and you could work out a deal with them where they refer you clients. Alternatively, Steve, the other way, of course, is just feed clients in to the Access to Capital and/or small business certification program. We take them through the 4 modules, and it just becomes painfully obvious where they have gaps for any of the 3 C's, right? Because we go through and we look at their business credit and personal credit, not our topic today. We look at their cash flow, not our topic today, and we look at their collateral. And the collateral is identified typically by looking at their business's balance sheet, as well as maybe their personal financial statement. So with that, then it becomes just painfully obvious. And so the easiest way to produce volume as a debt buyer and a debt seller is to bring clients into the small business certification, because most of them will have inadequate collateral. However, Steve, if you wanted to go direct to the market, someone doesn't have to be a participant of our programming for you to sell them the debt, the portfolio. All right, so Spencer, you're asking sample documents of what it looks like. So I don't know exactly what you're asking, Spencer, so you may have to elaborate. So this is the packet. And then if a client wants to move forward, what we're going to do is send them the full contract. And so I'm obviously happy to share with you the contract. The contract, frankly, has this packet, but afterwards are the additional pages that are the actual agreement terms. So we're now proposing to sell that portfolio of debt to the buyer. And so if you're a prospective debt buyer and you want to be then of course a debt seller, let us know, and we can get you the packet. And so then the client would then, if they sign the agreement, in other words, they want to enter into that, then they would sign it. Then we would invoice them, whoever's buying the debt, for the $1,000, the 1 point down payment. And so then that, and so Spencer, anyone else, I can't keep up with the Zoom chats, but if you're interested, the way that you would want to get plugged in is right here. So Business Paralegal Collateral Support Program. I've got like 8 of you asking me to send you the packet, and I apologize. I'm not that fast to talk and take down those notes, but that's why we have this page here. So this is where you would go if you're wanting to either buy the portfolio yourself and or you're interested in being a debt buyer and reselling it. Okay, so I think we got that covered. Okay, Bernard asked a great question. So when you're buying and selling debt, there's a stratification or a difference, two different categories. One category is with media and one category is without media. So we'll use an industry example and then we'll get to ours. So again, as I mentioned, Bernard, in general, historically, there's been most of the debt buying and selling has occurred with mortgages, auto loans, and credit cards. Those are the three main categories. So we're pioneering a fourth category, which is exciting. So with media, it means if you were to buy a portfolio of defaulted mortgages, Bernard, with media would mean that you would either receive or have access to the original mortgage applications and loan documents that the original borrower signed with the original lender. So media is that packet. So media within a defaulted auto loan portfolio would again be the actual loan document signed by the borrower, person that borrowed money to buy the car, and the lender, the Santander, the Capital One, what have you. Same on credit cards and same with us. So media is referring to the underlying source documents showing the initial agreement between the original buyer and seller. With that being said, the Collateral Support Program can be set up either way. It can be based upon a portfolio with or without media. Both of them can be sold. Ultimately, the way that in addition to the legal documents to legally transfer ownership, frankly, it comes down to a spreadsheet. And let's use another industry example. Let's say that you had, and this not to Bernard individually, but just in general, let's say that you had a credit card with Capital One and it went bad. You didn't pay the bill and it got charged off. So then it goes to a collection agency. What do you think actually goes from Capital One to the collection agency? It's a spreadsheet. It's a spreadsheet that would have your default information as well as a bunch of others. That's the portfolio that's moving. So what happens in our world is when someone enrolls in a collateral support program and buys a portfolio, they are getting a spreadsheet. And the spreadsheet has the information about who owes the money, how much they owe, the original debt, and so forth. So that's always going to occur because that's going to be the minimal necessary information transfer for the debt buyer to be able to do anything with it. Then optionally or variably, there may or may not be media, which is the underlying source documents. So hopefully that answered your question. A little bit long-winded, Bernard, but that's the answer. So media is referring to the underlying source documents. And so typically, quite frankly, debts with media are usually worth more than debts without media, but certainly debts without media can be sold and are sold. A lot of times when the transfer occurs, so the buyer needs to know, is there media or not? But a lot of times all the media is not transferred. Instead, if they need to request it, they can request it. But it's really a spreadsheet of data that is what's moving from the buyer to seller, as well as all the legal documentation transferring ownership. Great question, Bernard. So who else has questions about this? Because this is actually a really big deal. Why is it a big deal? Most people that come to you are not going to be qualified for the amount of funding that they want. That's why you and I exist as technical advisors, to help build their financial literacy, to build their loan package, and help them meet the credibility standards. There are three main categories of credibility that may have to be addressed: credit, capacity, otherwise known as cash flow, and collateral. We're talking about the third of the three today. This is how we help them address collateral. It's real. It's obviously legal. It's very effective, and it's something that you can monetize. And I know there's a couple of you that said you just want to focus on buying and selling debt. It's risk-free, and it is very profitable. Now, how profitable it is, it's up to you, right? Because you're going to buy, if you wanted to be a debt buyer, you'll get it at wholesale. Maybe you just want to turn around and sell it at wholesale. Maybe you don't want to mark it up. That's your choice. Or you, of course, could be a debt seller and mark it up and generate profit. All right, we got a lot of people on the training. Al, Ben, Bruce, Charles, Denise, JR, Joseph, Lon, Pauline, Scott, Spencer, Veronica, Wayne, and a bunch of others. So who has questions regarding the Collateral Support Program? Does it make sense? Do you understand now better what it is and why it's very important? Because it solves a problem, doesn't it? Many small businesses have an inconsistency between the amount of money that they want to borrow and the collateral that they have to pledge. You and I can fix that legitimately, ethically, effectively by using the Collateral Support Program. If you want to work for free, hey, maybe work for free. If you want to make a profit, then you buy it and you resell it and you mark it up. You decide how much you want to mark it up. It's your choice. But most of you are marking it up to either 15 cents on the dollar or even 20 cents on the dollar and making $5,000 to $10,000. So it's real, it's ethical. I mean, and I think we made reference to our, this was the portfolio that we sold to a law firm last year in 2021. And now we're preparing for a much larger institutional sale that'll blow this out of the water. And again, I'm not exaggerating, it's factual. Right now, what we have packaged, which has not been bought, we were at 5 million earlier this week. They asked for more. So we're literally, no exaggeration, at $17 million that we have packaged for them to review and decide upon. The gentleman's gone on spring break this week in Utah, and he'll be back next week. So hopefully we'll close it Monday or Tuesday. We thought we'd close the smaller amount this week, but professional debt buyers like big numbers, and they buy big numbers because they have the whole mechanism in place to monetize that debt. They're not doing it for a hobby. So they either are law firms like this group was, which went and chased after the debtors and sued them if they didn't pay. Some have in-house collection agencies. They have different reasons, but this is a big business that the average person isn't aware of and the average person can't plug into. But the way that we're breaking it down now, it allows each of our distribution partners, if you wish, I'm not trying to persuade you, it doesn't matter to me, we'll sell our debt one way or the other. We can sell it easily to institutional buyers, or we can work with you where you can monetize it. It's up to you. But we can't ignore the fact that if clients want to be able to get a capital raise, they have to meet the underwriting criteria. The underwriting criteria often involves one or more of the 3 C's, and this is an important element of credibility that you and I can help them address. Any questions before we end today's training? All right, well, thanks everyone. We'll see you back Monday morning. Let us know if you have any questions. And again, if you're interested, like Spencer and several others of you, I'm sorry, I didn't take notes down, but all you'll do is just fill out this form and we can get the packet to you. You can make an educated decision. There's no cost or obligation to review it. Thanks everyone. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.